Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. How are you doing? It is Tuesday. We made it to Tuesday. Monday was kind of the rough one. It's always like the, what do you call them? Trough? It's the trough. Anyway, we made it through. But today, 7/14, if you're into numbers, 7/14, it is Tuesday, the 14th of July. How you guys doing? I have got my co-host, Andy Hall, joining me this morning. How you doing, Andy?
I feel like I'm in the last act of Apocalypse Now.
There you go.
I'm just like putting water over my head. I'm telling Martin Sheen, you're just a grocery clerk coming to collect a bill.
But you survived the Monday.
Corona apocalypse has done to me, Chris. That's where I'm at right now.
That's where you sit now. I understand. I understand. We also have a guest this morning, Dennis. Is it Maler? Do you say it Maler? Good morning, Dennis. How you doing?
Good morning. Yeah, I say Maler.
Maler.
I think that's the German way to pronounce it, but I don't get precious and I never correct anybody. So whatever you say is the way that it is said.
Wonderful. Well, Dennis is a radio personality, podcaster, a stand-up comedian. He's just kind of done a lot of things. Do you want to take a moment, Dennis, and tell us a little bit about what you got going on, who you are?
Yeah, no, I'm that kid that grew up with the, hey, look at me disease. So now I'm an adult. Now I'm an adult with hey, look at me disease. So I do a lot of things. I worked in the radio industry for a bunch of years, both in front of and behind the microphone, producing and being on air and stuff. Now I host a really fun podcast where I speak with artists and entertainers about their day jobs called So What Do You Really Do? Because we work so hard, so many of us, like comedians, actors, musicians, painters and stuff, we work so hard during the day just to support what we want to do at night. So I feel that's a very interesting thing that the general public of people who don't have artistic, entertaining friends ever see about. So right now I have a brand new episode out with comedian Alex Edelman, who was doing a one-man tour show in Edinburgh in the UK, and it all got shut down because of COVID. And so now he's stuck in the UK with a travel ban and trying to get home and stuff like that, and watch how all that happened. And it's a good, interesting thing. He made this wildly successful Saturday Night Seder program that you may have saw if you're Jewish, or well, I guess if you're Jewish and you're celebrating Seder, you're probably not the atheist, the Daily Atheist audience, but
probably not watching. Yeah,
no, I kind of put that two and two together. Anyway,
to my Jewish audience,
but yeah. So he's a very funny guy, and a bunch of other great episodes speaking to people about, like, I talked to a band, the Dirty Dotties, who are like 5 out of 6 members in the band are all music teachers, but they're all different types of music teachers. Like, one teaches at a conservatory, one teaches at a public school. One of them is a musical therapist. She has a degree. She graduated from Berkeley with a degree in musical therapy, where basically I asked her what it is. She goes, basically, like, if you're going to surgery, instead of like pumping you full of meds and stuff, I just play my guitar at a certain beats per minute to slow your heart rate down. And I'm like, that sounds like voodoo. You went to a prestigious musical college to learn witchcraft. That's what this is. So there's a lot of good.
Can I rent her just to come around, just to stay around me? You know, just keeping my blood pressure to what's healthy, because I think that would be fantastic.
She's a 13th level bard. So
okay,
excellent.
Okay. We have D&D on here too. That's cool. All right, before we get too far along, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Good morning, Trina DeLuca, Blazing Wizard Pope, Tons of Mice, Edward Chirac. I did it. Chirac, Edward. Man, I'm never going to say it right. I will.
Is it Chirac? Is it like the Prime Minister of France?
It's Chirac. Well, it's Romanian. With some Greece in there, he said. Grecian with some Greece. Anyway, good morning, chat people from YouTube. How are you doing? Amber Schofield, the grumpy old dude. Hi. Well, not Amber and the grumpy old dude. Good morning. How are you guys doing? Pasta Mike and all the people over at the Atheist Roundtable. Good morning. It's nice to have you with us. I also like to say hello to Facebook. I don't actually get to see the Facebook chat for most of the Facebook people who are watching, because apparently there's a lot more watching. I like to say hi to the Facebook chat, and of course to the YouTube reviewer who has to go back and watch every show. Good morning to you. So hi everybody. It's nice to have you guys all along with me, and let me get that up there. There we go. Dennis, I love having comedians. All right, now I got to ask the question though, and I got to be careful because this is, I know
what the question is, and already we're canceled. They're writing posts about us. We're gonna have a job now. Great job, Chris.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Now, are you an atheist? Are you a believer of nons? Are you a non-believer?
I am self-proclaimed agnostic.
Okay, there you go. That's cool.
And because I say that is because I would love to believe in mystical bearded men controlling the fate of the world, as much as I would like to believe in ghosts and goblins and magic and witchcraft, all that, but none of it's real. So, like, I want to be a believer. It's just there is clearly nothing out there for me to believe in. Gotcha. So.
Understood. Well, okay. I just ask because, the last time Andy had a guy, and I sometimes I don't think to ask. And Andy's like, "Hey, I got this guy. He's really cool." So he gets this guy. He's really cool. And we're going along. I'm like, "Have you guys heard my Father Flanagan's line of inflatable altar boys joke?" And I'm like, "Father Flanagan's line of inflatable, and he's like, "No, I probably wouldn't go for that because I'm a Roman Catholic."
Oh, Mike, yeah.
Yeah,
well, I can't talk about, Mike's a close friend of mine. So
pie on my face.
I can't talk smack about Mike while he's not here.
No,
Mike,
it was good.
But he's a very liberal Catholic, and he's Irish. So, it's a cultural thing.
Oh, yeah.
That probably didn't go over very well. Bad Chris.
I thought you were going to ask what he thought about improv comedy, or if he was an improv comedy performer, Chris.
Who's this gentleman?
Because there seems to be like this third rail of stand-up comedians thinking about improv.
I mean, my opinion on improv is it is. I love to uphold the joke that stand-up comedians and improvisers hate each other, and we have a war going on. And I play that battle up to the T just for to be facetious and fun. But what my real feelings towards it is, good improv is amazing. It's transcending. It is some of the best entertainment you'll ever see in your life. Problem is, anything that's not great improv is abysmal and torturous.
Well,
or waterboarding. It's a sin. That's and here in Boston, where I'm broadcasting to you from, we have two schools, and one of them, both, not just Boston, across the country. Improv has a big habit of promoting mediocrity because it's a group sport. It has to be. You have to have people to do it. You have to have a troupe. Whereas stand-up, you don't need anybody but an audience. And most of the time, you don't even need the audience to do stand-up comedy. Trust me, I've done it. But improv, you need a troupe, you need people, you need a whole organization. So it is very susceptible to people who feel a necessary need and a place to belong, and for a group of individuals to identify with. So it comes off very cult-like. I also don't care for the business model of improv, which is very cannibalistic in that their ideal is make your audience your students and your students your audience and continue to perpetuate that thing. And that this is altruistic and not a business. They try to hide the whole business side of this. So that's why so many performers prefer not, or will opt out being paid. They won't make money. They won't do all these things. And it's all for the greater good. Greater good. Awesome. Greater good. So there's a lot of taking advantage of naive people in that industry. Same thing in stand-up comedy. It's just different people who are doing it.
Right.
The people who are taking advantage are the gatekeepers, so to speak. Whereas in improv, the people who are taking advantage of you are the people who are calling you their teammate and friend.
Gotcha. I just kind of want to point out, I'm here in Albuquerque, and we kind of had I was doing some acting, and we had a Netflix boom because Netflix bought a thing, and there's lots of people wanting to get in or be in and doing the acting thing. And the way I would think of improv, now I know there's some people who do improv and that's all they do. That's solely their thing. Yeah. But improv here, and that's how I actually took several improv classes as a technique to be used in other performances. It's something to use when you go into theater and you're doing an audition. You've learned how to be comfortable in front of people, or whenever you're doing stand-up comedy, because you've always wanted to do stand-up comedy and a heckler hits you. Now you can kind of flow your way through it with techniques you've learned in improv as a set of tools, not necessarily as an entire career. That's just how I saw it. Improv looks good, or so I heard, upon an actor's
Well, you're right about that, Chris, because I was talking with on my account, the Laughing at Disbelief YouTube account. We had Kevin Riome on, who is from Second City, and he teaches over at Second City, and he said that most of his students are lawyers, salespeople, other professionals who are looking to amp their game and to be good in the moment and to be entertaining and, work on their person skills, their people skills.
This sounds similar to the kind of animosity we kind of ran into the first time we had Sam on the show. And I was asking him, hey, Sam, are you trying to adjust and learn how to become an internet comedian and stuff like that? And he kind of went off on internet comedians about how that's not real comedy and all this other stuff. And of course, that was just the very beginning. The whole world has changed since then. I'm sure even Sam now is doing stuff on the interwebs, but I'm talking about the mentality of the divide between a real comedian. I've got my real stripes. I've got up on the stage and did the real thing, compared to an internet comedian. Now we've got, stand-up comedians
against. I'll ask Dennis the dangerous question. What is real comedy, Dennis?
What is real?
Well, that's the thing. It's I try to. I'll preface this with what I'm about to say with the statement. When I started working in the radio industry, I changed my thinking about music completely. I removed the word "sucks" from my vocabulary. I stopped referring to band musicians and other things as being bad. I just changed my vocabulary to "it's not for me. I don't care for it. I don't like it." Stuff like that. Because no one's ever going to, my opinion is not holier than anyone else's. And now I've grown to the point where anybody who thinks that their opinion is better than somebody's on a subjective art form drives me up the fucking wall. So I'm no longer a Zen person that I was trying to be. So same thing with comedy. There's different variations of comedy. Now, there's also a difference, I think, in describing improvising and improv. And that's just a nuanced conversation. Like improv, having the ability to improvise comes from learning improv. Back in the day when they started, you're right to think that it's a tool, it's a training technique and stuff like that. Improv was that. And there was a point where a bunch of improvisers were like, no, this can also be a full form of entertainment. That's when you started getting a lot of long form improv and stuff like that. Harold's and what's the one with the stories? It's called. Doesn't matter. They have a bunch of dumb names for all the different types. They do. Saying over and over again. But this is that's the world that we live in. That you can turn something that you did as a training technique into full form entertainment, and that's great. And when you talk about, you're a stand-up comedian dealing with a heckler on stage, I hate having to deal with hecklers. I do it very well. I'm very good at it, but I hate it. Like having to listen to comedians go, I need to learn how to deal with hecklers. Yeah, that's like learning how to fist fight if you're a musician. It's not supposed to be part of what you need to do. Like, I got to learn how to punch a guy who comes up on stage. No, you don't. You just tell jokes and be it. And that's where the best comedian. That's where or learning crowd work. You can't learn crowd work. All crowd work really is, or all dealing with a heckler is, the ability to create or recall a joke on command. That's basically all that is. So once you learn the proper techniques of writing jokes, set up punchline, and you learn how to deliver them in the best way possible without showing your work, without showing, here's the setup and here's the punchline. If you can deliver it naturally and succinct into what you're saying, that's the most best type of comedy, in my opinion. So internet comedians, stand-up comedians, comedic actors, improv comedians, they all have their own different things. They're all different forms of the same thing under the umbrella of comedy. Comedy is any attempt to make people laugh. So whatever your medium to making people laugh is, that's the medium that you're on. And it's no better or worse, I think, than any other one. It's like saying... well said.
It's
like saying books are better than magazines. I mean, people are writing, like if you read Rolling Stone, is that
wait. Magazine pages are usually slick and they come apart. They don't stick together.
The physical delivery.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I get the physical difference. There's a joke of that. But
one's more prone to sticking together, is all I'm saying.
Well, all girls probably stick together after you come out of the bathroom, but that's. If I'm a writer, if someone is not me, I write I write for a newspaper. Yeah, I transcribe interviews and then somebody prints them. I'm not a writer. I'm stealing from a nonprofit is what I'm doing. But someone who writes for Rolling Stone, is he any less a writer than Stephen King? You know, they both write. They both use words and imagery and stuff like that. One's a long form news article. The other is a story about a dog that goes crazy and eats people.
Right.
That's like saying hey, professional radio guy forgot to turn off his phone. All right. Once a month while I'm doing a podcast or something, my phone goes off and I'm like, I'm the biggest idiot in the world. At least when it happens during my own like introductions on my podcast, like I do, I record the interview. I do Mark Maron style where it's like, oh, we're doing the interview. And then I come back and set up the interview as if it never happened. My thing will go off. And then I was like, man, I got to start that whole 5-minute ramble over again. Point two. In the midst of my 5-minute ramble about comedy. It's like saying movie actors and TV actors are different, in my opinion. I think it's just, you're still doing the same art form because, I don't want to fault anybody for being a comedian on the internet. I fault you for your content. That's where it comes one of the problems with internet comedians and why it can be so easily to hate them as sometimes jealousy. And especially like I like Sam, I love Sam a lot, but I mean, hey, go ahead and make fun of an internet comedian's guy who has 17 different internet shows a week. Okay. But it's that thing. It's like there's no barrier to entry. There's no feedback. But it also became very popular at a time to just, as an audience member, watch those mediums. So I can understand where there's a lot of jealousy that comes in. Is like, oh, that person's not putting in the hard work, going to the things, having to do with bombing and stuff like that. No, they just learned a different method to create comedy. I mean, Bo Burnham, I think, is one of the most talented comedians that we have out there right now with both all his stand-up, his music, and now the movie 8th Grade that he put out, which is absolutely amazing. So to say that he's lesser of a comedian because he started on YouTube, I think, is a total fallacy.
I watched the first few minutes of 8th Grade, and by the way, this is when you get to tell me I'm an idiot. And I thought the first few minutes just it turned me off because I thought, I think 8th graders are a lot smarter than what those first few minutes depicted them as. And it didn't hold my hummingbird type of attention span. That's what it was. It didn't hold me long enough, and I just kind of flicked onto something else. Yeah. Booksmart held my attention. I thought it was very clever, and I thought it was a good depiction of what dimly what I remember from being young. It was a very long time ago, but having teenagers, I can kind of see it, firsthand. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, movies are subjective just like any other art form. If it's not for you, it's not for you. That's awesome. I mean, if it didn't keep your attention, that's fine. I mean, I empathize so much with a lot of the characters. I remember empathizing a lot with the characters because awkward teenager and going through things, just feeling out of place and uncomfortable all the time. So I identified with it. Some people may not have, but I still think at the end of the day, it's still a good. Even on the technical side of things, it's it hits all the good story beats. It has emotion. All the acting's done well. The overall vision of it was put together well and stuff like that. So that's personally how I feel about.
Well, there's a certain amount of maturity that you can say that I can appreciate the technical aspects of the writing or the filming, whatever, the acting, while saying it's not for me.
Fair enough.
I'm not sure which shows are we talking about.
Well,
8th Grade that Bo Burnham wrote and directed. It's about a teenage girl in 8th grade.
Completely unfamiliar, but back, I guess, to the original question though. Your viewpoint on improv comedy is not that it's not comedy; it's just a different branch of comedy, and it's all good with different.
Unfortunately, you get a lot of low hanging fruit and stuff like that because. As a stand-up comedian, I can pour over my material over and over and over and over until I make it perfect.
Absolutely.
Whereas in improv, you have just your instincts, and sometimes, I do it too. Sometimes I write, I have a joke that I get shit for from a lot of comedians where it's like I was doing a medical research test, and the nurse who not even a nurse, it was this intern at this medical testing facility was like, all right, so I'm gonna draw blood from you now, and she's all nervous. And the only way I know how to make people comfortable is make a joke. So when she goes, all right, you're going to feel a small prick. And I was like, I feel a small prick every night. It's such an overused, hacky joke, but it fits in the moment. It allows me to have, my laughs per minute up a little bit more. And no, I'm not proud of the joke, but in the overall bit, I'm proud of everything in there. This just happens to be one dumb, hacky joke that fits in the moment. And if I could come up with something better in that moment, I would. I just can't write anything better. And I don't know what you could really, without changing the, because it's one of those.
No, I get it.
Real life situation.
No, and I agree. I've done hacky things like masturbate with a mic stand on stage, and as I'm doing it, I'm going, "Wow, this is really hacky," but people seem to love it.
So I think if your entire act is built on moments like that, you're probably not a great comedian. If you're obvious punchlines, and I think what defines a real comedian, as opposed to just I think what's the old saying? A comic says things that are funny. A comedian makes things funny.
Yeah,
I think that's the true difference. There is you're able to create laughter out of the most mundane, not mundane, but if you're able to create jokes and laughter that are original and in your point of view that other people wouldn't necessarily have come up with, that makes you a better comedian than somebody who is just repeating the same thing. That's one reason why I don't like memes so much. I love that there's a creative visual art form. We're just not being creative in it. We're just telling the same joke over and over again. It all relies on the same premise. We're just changing the punchline slightly. Like the meme of the dude looking back at the one woman while the other one's like, oh, we already have that setup there. We already know what the whole situation is. It's just you keep changing the punchline. And I get very bored looking at memes because we're just telling the same joke over and over and over again. That's just me personally, though.
Understood.
No, I agree with you. And I think being in the arts, one of the most disappointing, and it's so disappointing, I like to mention it every once in a while, maybe more than just every once in a while, is that how little creativity it takes to be successful at times, right? So you can be too creative and you are speaking beyond the crowd or above the crowd, and no one's going to get that joke about the Weimar Republic or whatever. And then there's these memes that you just tweak it just a certain way and all of a sudden it goes viral.
Yeah, and again, viral success is as anecdotal as anything in the PR marketing guru success story. All those things are arbitrary as well. I think honestly more what makes things go viral more than what the content is the person giving the content. I mean, show me one ugly Instagram influencer.
Oh yeah.
We as a society just are completely obsessed with people who look conventionally attractive.
No, totally.
Male and female. Even, show me how many, even when you look at the male side of things, how many guys are conventionally attractive who are successful? That all factors in, even with own men. We just are dumb lizard brains are just unconsciously attracted to people who are attractive looking. Hence,
yeah, it really is true. The native atheist asked, the Weimar Republic. Yes, the Weimar Republic existed between World War I and the Nazi takeover in Germany. So it was the government that was, and I did some jokes on my blog, Laughing in Disbelief. Cheap plug there about the Weimar Republic. No play whatsoever. Throw up a couple of funny memes. Bam. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what the Weimar Republic is. I know you just told me what it is, but
talk slower, Andy. Talk slower.
I know. I also did not know how to pronounce that word until you just said it right now, and I'm pretty sure I still said it wrong.
Right. So in between World War I and the Nazi takeover of Germany, there was this form of government called the Weimar Republic, the Weimar Republic.
And are they the ones responsible for creating improv? Is that how it's?
I have no idea. Yeah.
Whenever you hear anything about Bauhaus architecture or art form, that's the Weimar Republic. That's so there's this kind of nexus, Venn diagram.
Isn't Bauhaus Republic the thing? Whatever you just Bauhaus Republic, isn't that the guy who did Bela Lugosi's Dead?
That was the band named after the artistic movement. That is correct. Good call on that, Dennis. from downtown. That was good. Bela Lugosi is Dead, which was in what horror movie?
The ability to create and recall a joke on time, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
So double Jeopardy question. Bauhaus.
I got no points. Go ahead.
Okay, but Bela Lugosi is Dead was the opening number to a movie featuring David Bowie, and it was about a vampire. Do you remember that movie, or is that even on your radar?
David Bowie vampire movie?
I believe.
I can't imagine there's a lot of those to choose from, so I feel like I should know this one. But up in my head, no, I don't think I know. I like to pride myself on movie knowledge, but is it the Hungry?
The Hunger. It's The Hunger.
Everyone hungers for a heart. Is that?
It is the name of the movie, The Hunger Movie. Okay. I'm just Googling it right now, but I believe that was the movie with 1983 horror movie with David Bowie. Yep. And Bela Lugosi is Dead is the opening numbers for that.
Nice. Okay. There we go. I'd like think of the most obscure. And here's the thing. I'm trying to think of obscure vampire movie, like, bougie vampire artistic movies from like the late 70s, and all my head came up with is just the picture is just the one vampire from Salem's Lot. And I'm like, that's still Salem's Lot. Why do you keep thinking of Salem's Lot?
I wanna, you wanna see me get into an argument with someone about the Weimar Republic. You're gonna see it right now. The Blazing Wizard Pope says it's a sham state, sham government. The Weimar Republic had a lot of difficulties. It's strong language here about the Weimar Republic. They had to deal with the French and the English, like repaying tons of war loans. And they had to deal with communists and fascists. The Weimar Republic was doing okay for itself until the Great Depression. And then that just sent everything sideways. So that's my defense of the Weimar Republic, which you never thought you would get into here on the Daily Atheist Morning Show.
I thought I was stroking out. I'm sorry.
I know trivia a couple nights a week because that pays more than stand-up comedy. And there's a reason why I ask the questions and not answer the questions in trivia is because I'm a dum-dum who went to 6 years at community college and didn't graduate. So
I see. Fun for the whole family. So let me ask you, how long, Dennis, can you tell us briefly, let's switch it to atheism because that's kind of our bag around here. Are you a cradle atheist? Did you start out as an atheist, or were you a believer of some fashion? What kind of nutbaggery do you believe in?
I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, and I can tell you the exact moment I lost my faith, and that was I was in Bible school, catechism, whatever, CCD, whatever you want to call it, or we were getting ready to do the not first communion. We're about to be confirmed or whatever it is in Catholicism that they, if you ask me what confirmation was, I have no idea. I went through it and I can't tell you what exactly the point of it is. Like Holy Communion, I could tell you that, but so confirmation is one of those things that you do like in 8th grade when you're in, when you're a part of the Catholic Church. And I went to Catholic school up until 5th grade, and then when I switched to public school, still went to catechism and CCD or Bible school, whatever you want to call it, every Sunday. Went through all that, and then high school dropped out. And the reason I lost my faith is because we're doing we're meeting with the priest and talking about the confirmation ceremony and all this stuff. And it's basically Catholic police. It's the 90s, so it's Catholic priest AMA. And one of the questions I asked was like, "Hey, so the Bible says that God created animals in one day and then man the next day, but we scientifically have proven there were millions of years between dinosaurs and humans. How is that? What is the explanation there?" And he thought really long and hard about this, like a little too long. And his answer was, well, what feels like a day to God could be 1,000,000 years to us. I'm like, you went through 6 years. You basically have a doctorate in religion. That's the best you could come up with. An 8th grader just stumped you on your own faith right now. Check, please. I'm done. That was basically where I fell out because I was just like, look, if this, I was already having my doubts and stuff like that, clearly. And I'm a lapsed Catholic, I guess people call it that. But yeah, I'm just, I am full support in people if they want to believe it. Awesome. Great. I mean, my brother is still to this day a devout Catholic. He went to 12 years of Catholic school. He went to a Catholic college. He goes to church every single week. His best friend and godfather to his son is literally a priest, who's one of the coolest guys that I know. He hangs out and drinks beers with us. He's a really cool, great, down-to-earth guy. And me and my brother get along fine on that, because my brother always tells people when they find out that he goes to church every week and he's still Catholic, they're like, "Oh, are you born again?" He goes, "No, I got it right the first time." I mean, depends on what your perspective of getting it right is, but I mean, him and I, we don't. He knows that I don't believe in all that, and he believes in his stuff. We don't cross paths. We don't get angry at each other. He doesn't preach to me, and I mean, my brother is probably one of the best Catholics to be around, because he does his thing, and he doesn't. If you talk about somebody who died, or if there's something, it's like, "Oh, my mom's sick. Oh, well, I'm going to say a prayer for her," and that's it. He moves on. He doesn't force. If you say something, he doesn't like, "Please don't blaspheme around me." He doesn't push his religion on anybody. He has his faith, and he deals with it. And he does a great job of it. And it's nice to see that there are so few of those people like that out there, but they are out there. So but it's not for me anymore. I'm also not into the militaristic aspect of let's talk about, let's force atheism on some. There's that old joke out there that is, what do you call a person that talks about religion all the time? An atheist.
An atheist. Yeah.
Right. So I think I pretty much. I try to keep it under control until I start drinking, and then I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth, to tell you the truth.
Don't get me wrong; it's fun to be an atheist, because so much of the religions, they just make themselves look so foolish you can't help but want to make fun of them.
Yeah, that's what I think is so funny, and I've mentioned this several times on the channel. Is that it's amazing. We're they have murdered, death, killed people their way through history by the thousands, and they still ostracize and abuse people and oppress people all the time. Every day we see it in one fashion or another, and yet we're the bad people for speaking out loudly and vehemently against their atrocities.
Yeah, well,
that's really what's happening here.
Chris, when you find a system that works, why would you stop doing it?
I'm just saying that's literally what the deal is
with it. Well, that's one problem with morality is in the eyes of the beholders. When you think about it, really.
So subjective morality. A lot of people don't believe in subjective morality. They believe in objective morality, which means that their God, whatever it says, is objectively moral. So if murdering babies on Tuesdays is by this God objectively moral, if it says so in its book, then that indeed is moral and objectively good by these people. So no, I'm with you. Absolutely. Me and you are together on this. It's all subjective, but Yeah,
I mean, well, that's the thing. An opinion that is only as subjective as you want it to be subjective. Like you're saying, I saying morality is subjective. You're saying that if your God says kill babies on Tuesday is objectively moral.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that still objective, or is that now subjective? Like, and I know this is a semantics argument here, but
I just think it's subjective.
It's subjective. Do you understand it's subjective, or is it still? It's like, do dumb people know they're dumb? If opinion is a subjective opinion, do you know that it's not objective? Like, you understand? Like, to you, your opinion is objective, and only that it's based on facts and this and that. Do you understand that your opinion is opinion about music is a subjective opinion? I don't know. That kind of just now I think my brain's dripping out of my ears thinking about the philosophy.
Of course. No, absolutely. Now, then we would naturally define objectively good music as music, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that everybody, now, the entire world over, would call good. That would be objectively good music, right?
I don't know. I would say.
See, that's
the
word. Yeah, no, I'm with you. The word is so.
Well, I would say objectively good music would be based on the merits of how difficult the music is to play.
Right.
If we judged all music on its of being good or bad because of its level of difficulty, then sorry, Ramones.
Let's go back to this. Let's go back to the other
songs ever.
Yeah, let's go back to the other analogy though. All right, let's do the babies on Tuesday. Let's just call it that without having to get too graphic. Babies on Tuesday. Objectively, and I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to explain it because I'm an atheist. But there are those out there who will believe that whatever God says is objectively right or wrong. If God says it's good, it doesn't matter. And by objective, they mean that it applies to them and us and me and you. It applies to everybody all over. That's kind of what they mean by objectively good or objective throughout the universe. Whatever this God says is good for everything, and whatever's bad. And then they apply it to anything it says. And I use the example of babies on Tuesdays because that's the kind of God they worship. That's kind of all. I don't think it's objective. They feel it's objective. And again, it brings up to you what you said. That's subjective based on their views.
It's objective based on their views. Yeah, well,
subjective. It's subjective.
Subjective, yeah. Do stupid people understand that they're stupid? Some people do. Yeah. And there's and the thing is, there are a lot of smart people who understand the limits of their intelligence, and that you get humility there, and that's really important. Is that no matter where you are on the IQ scale, even if you're an outlier, you're still just a smart fucking monkey. That's all you are. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Alan Turing, any of those people, but ultimately you're just a smart monkey when it gets down to it. And there should be some humility to understand the limits of how smart you are. It doesn't matter how smart or dumb. There should be. And the thing is, when you have this toxic arrogance, right, amongst the stupid, that's when you get people not wearing masks out in public, people just hanging out on the beach during coronavirus, and people going to freaking Disney World. Disney World.
All right, I'm going to defend Disney World, and only this. Universal Studios has been open since June 5th. Nobody seems to care. They've been open since June 5th. Nobody cares about Universal Studios.
I can't remember what that.
Disney goes, we're in phase 3, and I think it's time for us to open. It was like pitchforks and murder the mouse. Melt down Walt Disney. And it's like, what about Universal Studios? Do we not care that some 14-year-old girl's been dressed in a Batman costume and standing in the heat for 6 weeks? Nobody cares about that. Those people, but the people in Disney World, which, by the way, I went to Disney World 2 years ago for the first time ever, and oh my God, it is a magical place. Everyone's happy. It's great. I love it. I can understand why we're in the worst apocalyptic times in the entire world, and all you want is to be able to go hug a person with a giant fake costume on and go on a roller coaster and get a $75 picture of you peeing yourself on a roller coaster. I can understand why you would want to escape the world to the Magic Kingdom. I get it.
I totally understand. I understand horror movies a lot more now, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So whenever in like the second act, the kids go out and go drinking during the apocalypse, or when there's zombies around, or they go to that haunted Disney World place.
Or when they're chased and they run upstairs instead of out the door.
Yeah.
I totally understand that now. Totally understand it.
Yeah, it's more real than we thought. They are among us.
They are.
They are. Those people, they really are.
It's again that everyone wants to be right. Nobody wants to be wrong about anything. And it's unfortunately we are just a society of people who are willing to go literally to our graves holding our own opinion that we were the ones who were correct. And everyone feels despondent and outside, and you have to find your. Oh man, you know what? Here's a great movie to watch during the apocalypse, and I hope people will be able to understand what I'm about to say. And that movie is Higher Learning.
Higher Learning. I'll mark that as a
movie. It's got Tyra Banks, Christy Swanson, Mark Rappaport. I'm blanking on Adam Goldberg's in it. Lawrence Fishburne's in it. It's basically a single movie from the early 90s where a bunch of different people of ethnicities go to a college, and at the end of the movie, I'm going to spoil it for you, but still see it. It's a great movie. One of the kids gets on top of a clock tower and just starts plucking off other students. And that student is played by Michael Rappaport. And when you see the movie, watch Michael Rappaport's arc. It's brilliant acting. He comes in this movie as this like farm boy Midwest kid to this, liberal arts college full of diversity and stuff. And he tries to make friends with everybody. And he keeps getting pushed away and keeps getting made fun of by the African-American kids, by the Asian kids, by the other white kids. And he feels very despondent and pushed away until halfway through the movie, he gets accepted into a bunch of neo-Nazis, and he becomes a neo-Nazi, and then goes up in the clock tower and shoots everybody. And the only reason why he became a neo-Nazi is not because he was ever a racist or he believed in hating people to begin with, is because he was pushed aside so much, and that the only group of people that accepted him were neo-Nazis. So then he, was indoctrinated into their group. And it's that, John Singleton does. Jennifer Connelly's in it too, and Jennifer Connelly and Kristy Swanson have a sex scene.
Hey, how about that?
Brown chicken, brown cow. Okay.
Anyway, if John Singleton handles anything poorly in the whole movie, like he handles how African Americans feel despondent and how they interact with each other in society and stuff, how white people are, how racism. The only thing I think he lacked on was showing how women fall into being homosexuals. I think he didn't. I think that was still from the perspective of a man who liked to watch ladies kiss, and not the perspective of someone who's feeling uncomfortable and whatever this and that. But we're in a time where we want to feel like we're a part of something so badly that we latch onto, oh, well, I don't agree with these people who say with masks, so I guess I'm now an anti-masker. Yeah, anti-mask. Look at all these people who are with me saying anti-masks.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, Dennis. People come up to their positions, like they'll say, I'm anti-mask or I'm Catholic or whatever, and they don't understand how they got there. Like if you're going to ask them, they'll give you reasons, but it's really just because no one talked to you in high school, maybe. Yeah. And so.
Well, there's also
people
this
come
notion
to their
that
conclusions emotionally.
Well, there's also this notion that, like in that movie there, that it's other people's fault because they didn't hug and accept him, that he went and became this thing. Like they're supposed to now in the future, if some guy comes to them, accept them because we don't want him to become one of those things. That's kind of the message coming across here.
That may not be a bad message, to tell you the truth. But, don't be a dick so you don't make more mass shooters. That's a rational position.
I do get that. Wait. I do get that.
I mean, everything stems from something. I mean, I don't think you're just born. I was going to say you're not born ignorant, but that's the exact definition of being ignorant is the lack of knowledge. And you're born with no knowledge. But I think there is some truth to that. Like, we psychologically have proven over time and time again that abusers were abused. It's a cyclical thing that keeps happening. People who were treated as who were grown up as a victim of somebody ends up either becoming an abuser or continue to be a victim, depending on what the situation, how it was handled, and stuff like that. So I mean, let's look at The Breakfast Club. John Bender. He's a bully and an asshole, but why is he that way? Because he went home and his father beat him and burned cigarettes on his arm. So
that can't justify his actions, though, as a grown-up adult.
It gives you an understanding to why he's acting that way, and can lead you down a road to creating healthy behavior and to fix those transgressions. Because you just say, "Oh, Tom Bender's an a-hole, and he'll always be an a-hole, and there's no way to fix him." Well, the reason why he's an a-hole is because his father didn't love him. Well, maybe if someone shows him love and compassion, he could learn to become a functional, correct member of society. I mean, look how much cooler he becomes by the end of the movie when Molly Ringwald starts to show him affection.
I get that. Well, but that again, I'm talking about how in those situations, not necessarily with that one there, is it actually her responsibility there because he was abused, blah, 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 blah. Is it thusly her responsibility to show him affection?
I mean, it's not her.
I would say it's her responsibility.
Is she thus obligated to do so?
No,
I think it's
because that's kind of
we're
the whole.
Societally, we are obligated not to be dicks to each other. I just want to throw that radical idea out there.
But that sounds like the whole
and to stop dictum when you see it in real time.
Right.
Like if you see it in real time, you should be stopping that dictum if you are capable of doing it.
Well, we're talking about different things. The whole clarion call of the incels movement is that they're mad because women refuse to have sex with them. They're involuntarily celibate. And so
with incels going on, the problem with fixing incels is not, hey, let's all go blow a couple of incels. No, that's not. I would say what the psychological root cause of them being unattracted to women is it because they have a shit personality? Do they have a shit personality because their dad beat the fuck out of them? Do they have a shit personality because
But their notion is that because of these things, because they're involuntarily celibate, it really should give them the right to go do what they want to with a woman. That's kind of the whole point.
I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind right here. I'm going to say if people were less dicks to people who are not, if people were less likely to be dicks to people who are on the spectrum, right? Which a lot of these incel guys are. A lot of these incels, well, they wouldn't be incels and they wouldn't be angry towards women. If there was more of it accepting, it's like, okay, so you're quirky. Okay, we live in a quirky world. That's all there is to it. There'd be a lot less of a problem with incels.
Well, one of the things we talk about and we see a lot is who does the school shootings. More often than not, it's often a white guy, right? Sometimes they're kind of wealthy.
Except for the first school shooting, because she didn't like Mondays.
Tell me why.
You know what I mean?
Tell me why.
They tend to be that way. But wait a second. If people being picked on, so these white guys were picked on because they were awkward or whatever, and they turned out to be school shooters. You know what? If being picked on because you're awkward or didn't fit in was something that validated school shooters, we'd have black people doing school shootings all the time because they've been picked on all their lives. We'd have gay people doing school shootings all the time. We'd have, you know what I mean? The people with the least amount of oppression seem to be the ones snapping and going off and doing things like that.
I think,
and yet using that as the crutch
statement across everybody, because different forms of abuse ends up with different results.
That's good, Dennis.
Physically abusing your child, physically smacking and beating them, hitting them, results in so many different things that stem from problems in the household. So saying that because you were picked on like me, I was picked on a lot in school, and I didn't grow up to become a school shooter. I just grew up to become a cynical misanthrope that does not believe in the best in society. And that,
tough but fair.
Well, that attitude adjustment in me, I went from being a very positive, happy, precocious, energetic, and friendly kid to going, ugh, I hate everybody in this room because they're wearing Burberry scarves. Like, the reason I'm single is because of my many personality flaws, not because of my personality flaws. That's
of course.
And in the extreme situation with physical abuse too, if you get dinged in the head, and even if you get a minor brain injury up in your frontal lobes, I mean that dramatically increases your chances of popping off.
Oh yeah,
But and maybe I'm going to risk, but to go to the thing about only white kids become school shooters, I'm going to take a big leap here, and people are probably going to hate me for this, and they're going to go, oh, his statement justifies that haircut, and it's that a lot of the reason we don't see American kids as school shooters is because a lot of them end up joining, falling into gang violence. So if we look at society of what if I think it's fair to compare that white kids who were abused and who are bullied become school shooters in the same way that children of color that are in terrible neighborhoods and terrible home situations end up becoming part of gang violence.
Allow me to add on to that. Because for a lot of people with disadvantaged communities within the United States, they can't rely on the traditional institutions like the police or hospitals, whatever. So it's natural to form, these kind of extra societal or outside of society kind of institutions like gangs. And so you're right. A lot of that instinct, Dennis, probably gets shunted into that direction.
And
while just people.
Yeah, there's not much difference between, the gangs of West Baltimore. There's not much difference between the gangs of West Baltimore and the mafia in the 1940s Italian neighborhoods. If you look at it, it's like, for the most part, it's a despondent community, a disadvantaged, despondent community of a certain ethnicity doing what they can to try and make better for themselves and the people around them because they can't trust the people around them because of overall general prejudice.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I was trying to say, this kind of took a. Go ahead.
I was just saying, literally, I mean, is there really that much of a difference between, for lack of a better term, gangbangers and the mafia? I mean, there's a reason why we call both gangsters.
Yeah.
Well, they're both, and to dig deep, a little bit deeper, there is prohibition, either the drug prohibition or alcohol prohibition, both fueled these kind of gangs, right? I mean, whether you're Italians or Irish, we're in Boston, so of course you got the Irish mob back in the 20s and the 30s during Prohibition. And then you have today's drug prohibition fueling gang violence. Yeah. There's an economic incentive for people to do the things that they do.
Yeah, and by the way, I say all this. Also understand, it doesn't mean the plight of the Italians is anywhere any as valid as the plight of African Americans, because they've had a really bad time. So Italians are going, I understand how black people feel. No, trust me, you don't.
No, you don't.
Results in your community have become similar outcomes because of the prejudices that both groups had faced. I mean, granted, the Jews the Jewish community has felt tons of prejudice for centuries, and they didn't result in mob violence. So, like I said, prejudices also does have different results for different groups, but also similar results across different groups.
I think with people who are white, when they face kind of discrimination within a group of whites, it's different, because you can be a silent minority. Like, I'm an atheist, and I'm bisexual, and so I am a silent minority. I can just be quiet. And I think people who are like that face different struggles, definitely, than people who are like, here's my skin color, I cannot hide the fact that I am a minority within the system. Yeah.
Well, but you could hide the fact that you're an atheist, or the fact that you're bisexual. See, in the past you would actually would have had to. Yeah,
but it's an easier burden to bear.
Yeah.
But it's also unfortunate to you and your growth as a human being to have to be silent about those things, because we live in a society that's incredibly prejudicial and hatred of those things that you are. Yeah. So it's unfair that you are allowed to be silent. Unfair to you, not to others. I guess to others, that you don't have to feel the persecution out loud as a person of color has to feel it. I guess for them, you can hide your thing. You can hide your.
You really need to hide your thing, Andy.
I did. Well, the important thing that we've learned today is that we all find coffee
under your mask,
and that Andy needs to hide his thing.
Right.
Go ahead.
What have we gone over? We've gone over the Weimar Republic. We've gone over.
Who saw that coming?
No, yeah. We went from talking comedy to the Third Reich to how 3 white people have the problem to fix racial tensions in this country. That's
yeah.
Fucking put a bow on it. Put a bow on it.
Just to go back to my podcast, one of the episodes of my podcast, I hosted a couple panels at the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival, and one of the panels they asked me the host. I didn't I'll do this. They're like, hey, would you mind hosting the diversity in sci-fi panel? And the reason I hosted it is because I'm the reason we need diversity in sci-fi. So.
Yeah. As an example of the fact that we need diversity in sci-fi, a white gentleman will now
the panel of other.
Yeah. Let me guess, I was the first person you asked. That was a question. Were you their first choice?
I was the only one who didn't have a job to be at that day. I was off work. They're like, hey,
lazy white folk.
You're privileged enough to have vacation time on a Friday. Why don't you go host this?
Wowzers. Yeah. Tons of mice is talking in the chat about how there was a school shooting where they're from 10 years before Columbine. Stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind
crazy.
There's just too many of that sort of thing has been going on. I'm not trying to drag it back to that.
Well, one reason I think Columbine was, somebody pointed out the reason why it was important is because it was a rich neighborhood. I mean, I'm sure that factored into it, but also there was, from the moment it happened, it was, I think it was one of the first school shootings to actually have school footage.
Yeah.
School had cameras. Right. So it instantly became newsworthy because now we can show you that. But also, we immediately jumped on it and blamed they went through a lot, and it became very, for lack of a better, cinematic to talk about Columbine, because we had their letters. They had a manifesto. They had trench coats. They had uniforms, basically.
Yeah.
gave reasons to why they did it. It wasn't just some kid who was pissed off that came to school and just started popping off caps. No, they were a very organized thing, and it showed you a lot of psychotic. Instead of just going, "Oh, that's sad," the news organization, I'm not blaming the news or anything, but we were able to instantly show you everything about the whole situation because of visuals, because of not props, but evidence and all these other things. And we immediately jumped on, society-wise, we jumped on, it's video games and Marilyn Manson and KMFDM. Like, they jumped on all those things to say why it did it. So Columbine became bigger because of the entire, yes, we know it was two shooters.
No. Tons of mice are saying that the shooting they're talking about was also 2 shooters. It was before Columbine. Okay.
I kind of just glanced over and just saw it. I thought
I think I misspoke.
This is how insecure I was. I thought you were correcting me where I didn't acknowledge the appropriate amount of shooters at Columbine. I'm sorry, that was me, not you, tons of mice. It's because I jumped on you about that the same way I flinch whenever I hear a car door slam. So,
yeah. Well, in this case, I think I may have misspoke whenever I was reading their question, what they had said in the chat. So, I think that was what that was about. So sorry if I misspoke. Yeah. So whatever it is, they're all tragic, and really kind of one of the things about the movie we were talking about, Higher Learning, which I want to now go watch and kind of learn more about, is that the only point I was trying to make is that the fault. I agree that people should be nicer to people. That goes without saying, right? So those groups who shunned this person should have been nicer to this guy. Totally get that. I'm just there's no need to remove any blame from him and apply it to them for his actions because of that.
I gotta tell you something.
Explaining why something happened does not relieve the person of what they did.
Of course, yes.
Hey, look,
I agree.
I spilled milk all over the floor because gravity pulled the glass down and broke it. Doesn't excuse me from saying from me letting go of the glass.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So,
of course,
I don't think we have free will. I'm gonna bring free will into it since we only have 3 minutes left into this episode. As Sam Harris would say, that once you realize people don't have free will, you actually get to look at them much more compassionately, because they are suffering in a lot of ways that they don't have any control over, because there is no control, or there is limited control. Are we just fleshy carbon-based robots? Yeah, more or less. And when you think about that, then it's more about controlling behavior or managing behavior than about blaming people. It's more of a public health perspective than blaming people.
Blaming people is funner.
Let me tell you this. Blaming people is an artifact from religion. It's an artifact of religion, because even though, we may not believe in God, we carry these ideas about how the world works. And one of them is, I think that Mr. Harris, if he was here with me, would agree with me, is that this free will idea is this artifact from faith. Yeah,
I see. I couldn't argue with that.
Andy, you just bring down a room so easy.
I know.
Just bring it down.
You just suck the air out of this room.
Suck the air, dude.
I think Dennis went to sleep. You put Dennis to sleep, Andy. What kind of person are you?
I'm not asleep. I'm right here.
Yeah, Dennis. He's reading the chat.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I'd love to hear is Jadzia Dax is saying, should we blame people for wanting to cut out toxic? I'm assuming cutting out toxic people from their lives. No, you should not feel bad to do that, because you have to do what's best for you ultimately at the end of the day. However, one can say what you could also do is figure out why they're toxic and help them to become untoxic. But it's not your obligation. It's not your responsibility to do that. It is going above and beyond the situation.
Yeah, far too often we see that in women where they meet a guy who is a toxic personality and they take it on themselves to, I'll fix him, and then they end up being in an abusive relationship. I've heard that more than once.
Codependency.
So got to avoid that. Avoid that.
That perfectly describes my foster dog. She is incredibly codependent.
My foster dog. She's a cutie. He's got a wiggle butt there. We love wiggle butts on the show and have no problem. Actually, in fact, I'd probably rather have your dog on the show. Looky there. Oh my god, let me get you big on the screen there.
That's a great dog, dude.
Look, the butt is wiggling. I see it. Oh my goodness. She's a puppy.
Hello.
I love puppy dogs. They're wonderful.
She loves me she is just a foster, and she loves me with every ounce of her heart every single day. And that amount of love just makes me wish she would get adopted faster.
That's wonderful.
Because they said we're at the part of the relationship that if I was dating a woman who loved me as much as this dog would, I would have to break up with her so she doesn't break up with me first.
To avoid the pain. Well, thank you for sharing your puppy dog with us. We love the fur babies and wiggle butts. Love them, love them, love them. Thank you very much. What's the puppy's name again?
Her name is Sister. And she was picked up in Memphis, Tennessee, off the side of the road with her puppies. And they told me when I was fostering her, like during when they named her during this Black Lives Movement and everything, they said we wanted to make sure that she had a good ethnic name to help support Black Lives Matter. And I understand that it was named by well-meaning but still racist white people because they left a hard R in it. So.
And you can't go around society tasering people until they're lying in a pool of urine. You just can't do that, but you want to sometimes, despite their good intentions. Anyway,
with good intentions.
Good. That's wonderful. At least the puppy's safe, so that's good. That's good. So
she gets all the loves and head pets that she could ever possibly want.
That, in fact, is wonderful. All right, Andy, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate you being with us again this morning.
I don't know what I've been doing for the last hour. I might have irritated people, confused, dismayed.
Yes.
I don't know, but I had a really good time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me again, of course. It's wonderful. And Dennis, thank you for joining us on the show. I don't know if I didn't – did we tell you about Sci-Fi Saturday? Do you dig sci-fi? Are you into sci-fi?
Yes, I am. I hosted. Yes. No, I love science fiction. Yes.
Okay. Every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern instead of 9 a.m. Eastern. So it's 2 hours later. We do Sci-Fi Saturday here on the show. And I have comedian Leighann Lord. You probably know her. She joins me for Sci-Fi Saturday. So one of these days, if you're willing, we'd love to get you on Sci-Fi Saturday. If you have a sci-fi show, I'd love to join you on your sci-fi show. I didn't know you had that.
I don't have a sci-fi show. It's just there was a film festival here in Boston that I helped out with, and I hosted a couple panels. And I also did audio, did all the recordings for their podcasts and recorded the panels, did all the live sound and PAs and stuff like that because I have that equipment and audio is my life. So.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's wonderful. All right, guys, I'm going to let y'all go. Thank you very much. I need to get some better links for you, Dennis. So
DeadAirDennis.com.
What's that?
DeadAirDennis.com.
DeadAirDennis.com. That was easy. DeadAirDennis.com.
Yeah, I have really great SEO.
Awesome. That's wonderful. And don't forget to pop over to Laughing in Disbelief for Andy Hall.
That's me.
Twitter and Instagram. He's everywhere. So thank you guys very much. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, a YouTube reviewer who has to go back after every show and watch the show because they're douchebags. The people who block the show. No, see, it's like an algorithm that unblocks my show from being monetized, and a person manually has to go watch it every time to allow it to monetize. I'm calling that algorithm.
Not douchebags. They are just part of a douchebag system.
No, the algorithm is the douchebag.
Okay, we'll go with that.
That's what I'm talking about. The algorithm is the douchebag that demonetizes my thing just because I have Atheist in there. That's all it takes. If we sit here talking about puppies and kittens and stuff like that, the whole show would still demonetize the video every time. So manually.
Atheist puppies.
See, what's up with that? All right, guys, you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. And thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dennis. You guys are wonderful. Appreciate it.
Thank everyone for watching. Take care.
Thank you for watching the show. A special shout out to my gold level Patreon supporters, the Blazing Wizard Pope, Ian Davenport, Cindy Plaza, and tons of mice. Thank you and have a great day.